There it goes.
All right, Corey, final meeting. We've done 5 weeks of nutrition, and I personally feel like it's gone by really fast.
It has. It flew by.
Yeah. So we talked about clean principles when we first started, and I want to do a comparison of the ones of them now and what they kind of look like now. So first one is consistency, and I have your old ones right next to me on another sheet of paper, so we're going to kind of just look back and forth. Talk to me about consistency, what you think it was like before, or what you kind of mentioned before, and what it's like now.
Consistency as far as just like good meals and all that stuff, or just consistency in general.
In general.
It was pretty much total crap before. I didn't have a good schedule laid out. I didn't have good guidance, and then also didn't have good discipline or accountability, and that all kind of rolls into one giant thing.
Yeah, I literally have discipline and accountability with like arrows pointing to it.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue with diet in general, especially now. Like when I was younger, I could, eat a little bit crappier and not see the negative effects. Now, really have to pay attention to that nutrition, and I just didn't have that discipline and that accountability to make sure that discipline stayed on track.
Yeah. Yeah, I have written down as well, like eating out a lot. What is that like for you now? And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, but talk about that.
So I haven't really, and this is partially thankful to the COVID stuff. I know it's kind of a grim thing to say, but I'm looking at it as kind of a small blessing with all of the restaurants being closed or in some sort of limited capacity. I've had zero interest of going to any of them, even for takeout. I think during this 5 week time, I have ordered maybe takeout once for special occasions. And yeah, other than that, I've been prepping my stuff either the night before or the morning of to kind of ensure, especially around lunchtime with my schedule, it can be kind of jam packed and I may not have a whole lot of time to eat. But now knowing that, okay, hey, I have my meal stored right here, so I don't need to go out and grab something real quick. I have it right here with me. I'm good.
Yeah, so meal prepping was something we talked about before. I have written down, doesn't like meal prepping, ...
Nope, still, that's still I don't want to say a challenge. That's still kind of a little bit of an uphill battle. I wouldn't say like, a mountain uphill, but more just, a slight grade uphill now.
Yeah,
Like you talked about before, it's just a kind of practice, practice, practice thing. The more you start doing something, the more you get accustomed to it.
yeah.
So
that relationship with meal prepping has gotten a little bit better, I assume.
yep. And I usually, I'll try to cook a bunch of stuff all at once. I'll buy like family packs, so like chicken, for example, and I'll cook all that all at once. And I have some pretty big storage containers. So all I have to do is basically grab a piece of chicken, throw it in there, make my my veggies or my fruits or anything else with that, and then boom, I'm good to go.
Nice. So no schedule before, no discipline, no accountability. What does your consistency look like now in your nutrition?
It is really good. On top of what we talked about last week, which is the meal timing alone, I try to set like as soon as I wake up, I try to within at least 45 minutes to an hour of waking up have my first meal, which is pretty much the shake thing, just because I don't really have the appetite for it in the morning, but the shake stuff kind of takes that away and helps me with that. So I always have that. I know that right around between 11 and 1 o'clock in that time frame is when I'm going to have my lunch. Now I already have it prepped, laid out. I know what I'm going to have. And then I'll have like 2 snacks with me just in case last second meeting comes up with work or something like that. So in case I do need to push lunch back a little bit, I can grab a snack and make sure that it still falls within my macros.
Yeah.
And then
Sounds like you're way more prepared now, essentially.
Yes. What it yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. Liquids. What do they look like before? What do they look like now?
So I drank a lot of pop before. And I knew that was one of my biggest crutches, just because of the amount of sugar. And even though like I love Diet Coke, but still that aspartame in there and all the other, words you can't really pronounce, that had such a negative impact on me that I knew I needed to get rid of those. Now I haven't had a single pop and this entire 5 weeks. No energy drinks, nothing like that. Either it's just been water or the occasional beer.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just water, water, water. In fact, I go through probably about, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these a day.
Nice. How does that make you like? Does that make you feel better throughout the day, or what difference has that made for you?
So the first week, because before we actually started, I kind of tapered myself off a little bit so I didn't kind of crash from like I don't know, a sugar rush or something. So the first week was a little challenging with that, but having the mindset and knowing that it would negatively impact, my goal for this, that really kind of put it back into that discipline perspective. We're like, hey, here's the end goal. You're not there yet, but in order to get there, you have to do this. That was the easiest thing that I could control at that time. So cutting that out, huge, huge progress, huge step. Definitely feel way better.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. So now we'll get into eating out. I have written down every day.
Every work day for at least lunch. So
What-
now
No.
I haven't gone out a single time for lunch.
Nice. And how does that make your day a little bit? Like, does it make your day easier? Does it give you more time to work on other things? What does that do for you?
So it definitely it makes the wallet feel a lot better. My bank account, instead of pouring money into crappy food, it's going into, one purchase of Whole Foods when I go shopping. So that's huge right there. It does free me up a little bit because now I can actually enjoy my break. Usually I do still work through my break, but it's kind of doing professional development, studying for some of my certifications, stuff like that. Um, but the fact that it's more like a reward thing, knowing that like, hey, I made all this and I'm eating it and I enjoy it. So I know that this is going to taste good because I made it earlier. I've had this before. I know it's going to taste great, and I know it's not going to negatively impact me.
That's
And I
awesome.
know I'm not going to take a nap in the afternoon because it was, just so much crap.
Yeah, you're like sitting at your desk, like falling asleep.
Yep.
Oh no,
Yep.
what have I done to myself? You're like,
Yep.
wow, so much work done. Love it. Adequate calories. How did you feel about that before, and how do you feel about that now?
So that part is still a learning curve for me. I'm getting better. It all. So before I thought I was eating enough calories, but I think it came to fruition that I was actually under eating, and makes sense to one of our first meetings where you were explaining how just the body metabolizes everything differently. If you're not eating the adequate calorie amount, then your body thinks that you are either starving, so it's slowing all those processes down, and it causes you to regain that weight, or not retain that weight. And we needed to jumpstart my metabolism. I definitely saw that as soon as I hit a lot of those days where I was meeting either my workout calorie goal or my non-workout day calorie goal. It still is kind of a struggle just because it's still a whole lot of food now that I'm eating Whole Foods. So finding different combinations that will actually meet that calorie marker is still going to be a learning curve for me, but I have a pretty good path that I'm on now. I know what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that, about how, and I think you mentioned it just a second ago, but how at first, like we compare it to working out. The first time we do a snatch or a clean and jerk, our body's like, what are we doing? This is weird. But then once you figure it out, and it's the same thing with nutrition, like you start nutrition or try to go on some kind of path with nutrition, you're just like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. But then over time with practice, it just gets easier and easier, just like that lift does,
Yep.
So yeah, I know we struggled with it a little bit. And like you said, it is so hard. Like people feel like you can fill up on calories when you're eating like empty calories and processed food, but it's actually quite a struggle to eat a lot of calories in Whole Foods because they're so little in calorie, and like you can just toss them on a plate.
Yeah.
Nice. Nutritional foods. So that kind of leads us into that, talking about Whole Foods. What does that look like now compared to what it looked like before?
Oh, leaps and bounds better. Pretty much everything in my fridge right now, besides a couple like condiments and like salt, pepper, stuff like that. One, I can pronounce everything that's in there, and it's a lot of whole foods, a lot of good meat, clean ingredients. Before that was filled with nothing but oh, hey, I can throw this in the microwave or I can throw this in the oven. and it's just a lot better, just
Yeah.
overall.
Have you seen any differences in the way your workouts have been feeling?
Absolutely. So the one, what was that last? I don't know if it was Monday of this, whatever the deadlift one was.
I think it was Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, I felt that in the deadlift for sure, and then also I felt it more in that WOD. My goal was to get through 3 rounds of that, just because the movement was because of my back a little restricting, but I ended up having way more energy than I thought I did, and I was able to push myself a lot further, and that was 100% no doubt because of the nutritional changes I've made,
Yeah.
because of what type of fuel I'm putting in my body now.
Yeah. We often can compare it to the gas that you put in your, or like the oil that you put in your car. Like if you put the good stuff in there, your car's going to perform well. If you put the good food in your body's going to perform well.
Exactly.
That's super awesome. I love it. What are some of your favorite vegetables now?
So I've always loved spinach.
Okay.
That's never been like an issue. I throw that in my my morning shake, and then I'll switch between either that or like kale for lunch, because I know kale has a little bit more carbs in it.
Mhm.
So I'll try to eat kale on workout days. But spinach, kale, I love carrots. I can eat the whole bag of those, no problem.
Nice. Carrots are so good.
Oh God, yeah.
I wish I would have enjoyed carrots more in my like childhood life because I people always say like if you eat a bunch of carrots like your vision's really good and like my vision's trash and I'm like
Eh,
why did I wait so long to like these things?
That's kind of a myth, because I've always loved carrots, and I mean I ate them since I mean my mom can probably speak for me on that one. But I've had vision problems my entire life. Like I wear contacts now in my adult life, but I've always had glasses since I was
Yeah.
probably about 5. So
I just blame that on my shitty eyesight. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So let's talk about like what does that discipline look like for you now? Um, yeah.
So the discipline now, put it in kind of perspective. I still have a good majority of my friends that like to hit the bars every night. Um, I was a regular there, and just sitting there and drinking beer for 5 hours on end. I mean, that was probably 4 months ago. Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll sit there with you. But now, anytime that I get put in that kind of scenario, I have the discipline to be like, wait, no. If I go there for a beer, like, hey, maybe that's okay, but we know it's never going to end that way. Peer pressure, so on and so forth. So I've been able to create discipline there and learn how to say no and actually be true to my word. Same with, eating out, or if I am just struggling, having a bad day, and I want some comfort food, there's a McDonald's right here. I can just swing in there 5 minutes, no problem. I've been able to, kind of remind myself like, hey, remember what you're looking for. Remember what you were trying to achieve. Don't sacrifice it just because you got off of one conference call that might have been bad, and, that tanked your mood for that time.
Yeah. So with that being said, what's a current lifestyle habit that you've incorporated since starting nutrition?
Oh boy. Lifestyle habit. Trying to think of a good way to do that, or to so trying to commit myself at least to doing the gym. I try to make it at least 3 times a week, and with that I try to go to the WODs that I don't want to do, so the ones that are difficult for me. Trying to make a better athlete out of myself, doing like a example running is very hard for me, just given all my robot parts and whatnot. But I've tried to make it a goal, just like, hey, that's your weakness, you need to work on that. So combine that with everything that you've taught me over these past 5 weeks. I have seen slow progress. There's some medical issues that just we won't be able to get behind or get in front of because of that. But having that lifestyle kind of mindset, here's my weakness, I know how to attack it. And I've also been able to kind of translate that into my professional world too, where I've been able to identify, okay, this is what I'm weak at in this, whatever area. Instead of pushing it along to someone else, pushing it back, let's just tackle it now, get it over with.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I can see those two both being very related. And because of this, the discipline that I've learned just with the meal timing, meal prep, when I have to eat, all correlates into one. So I used this phrase yesterday. A million little steps will lead up to a great distance.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked, and we know that like 5 weeks is not that long of a time in the realm of a journey of nutrition. But you can learn so much in 5 weeks to pave the way for like success with nutrition for the rest of your life. What, other than like that lifestyle change that you've incorporated, what has been the biggest change overall so far that you've either felt, seen, witnessed, anything like that?
Definitely. So there's a couple. The energy, that goes back to what we were talking about putting the right fuel in there. That was huge. I've always been a morning person, but lately now that I'm actually giving my body the correct stuff, popping up in the morning and going into work super early does not phase me at all. I'm not dragged out in the afternoon. Even if I do hit the gym, I'm still, pretty well, depending on the WOD, pretty chipper. Um, but the biggest thing for me is, so we started at, I think I was 259, 260, right around there, and I am at 248 right now. So that's huge right there. And with that, because of especially my spine, the less weight means the less gravity pulling down on, my sciatic nerve cluster there. So
Yeah.
that, even though that's just 11, 12 pounds, that's
Yeah.
still a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I love it. And then my very last question for you, Corey, if you could rate your nutrition on a scale of 1 through 5, what would you say?
Current nutrition right now, as to like what I'm doing, I'd say probably a solid 4. Starting from what I knew before and what I was doing to now, I see a lot of progress, a lot of change that I've made. I've been able to create that discipline, so that kind of equates into that solid 4. Still having issues with, like we talked about, the trying to meet the calories, but it's not like I'm falling, super short on them.
Right.
So there's work to improve there, and then also the macros. That's still a little bit challenging, but like you said, practice makes perfect. So I just have to keep doing it, finding the foods, experiment with combinations, and also just kind of remembering that, if I do have something that has a lot of carbs, that will even out if I eat something that has protein and fat at the same time.
Nice.
So taking all that into it, yeah, solid 4 right now.
Nice. Yeah. I had this conversation with someone else the other day too, and it's like sometimes you don't want to be that perfect number 5, because it's like when you get there, it's like you lose room to grow.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
yep.
There's always room to grow in whatever realm of something that you approach. So, and then once you get perfect, you like cap yourself off, and you lose either like within yourself. You're like, oh, I'm good at this. I don't need to learn anymore. So then you just limit yourself. So I like that. Solid 4. And then my last one, favorite memory of us working together with nutrition.
Oh man. So the relatability that we have, it's very easy. It's very approachable. Both of us have been able to communicate very clearly. I'm very big on that. As you, and if anyone else watches this video, anyone that knows me, I'm a pretty loquacious, talkative guy. So communication is very big in my part. You definitely made it super easy. You didn't hide anything. There was no BS. You were straight up honest. There's no brutal moments or anything. It was just like, hey, what do you want done? I can help you get there. So that part, huge, the communication, but also the accountability part on the back end, knowing that you were checking that. I can't stress that enough, especially with me. That was the biggest thing, even though we would only have our meetings weekly and communicate, via text a couple times here and there. Just knowing that you were checking what I was eating and I was being honest with what I put in there, that was probably the most relatable thing there, because that is one of those things that also goes back to, okay, if I had a candy bar here, if I put that in there, what will Coach Trina say? Is she gonna whoop my ass in the gym? Am I gonna have to do 4 rounds instead of 3 for the warm up? So
I never did that, but
no, you never did. But hands down, the communication, and also just the sheer honesty. Because you did say, straight up, that if the customer, consumer, client, whatever you want to call it, me for this example, if they're not willing to change, then that can make it your position very hard. So it has to be kind of a mutual, hey, you signed up for this. Hey, I'm going to help you, but you have to commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate you so much for that. And we talked about that the other week, but seriously, it's so refreshing to get someone receptive and putting their trust in me, essentially with like their life, like
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to help you get on the right path and do the right things and be healthy and enjoy your food with, so thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of all I have. Is there anything else you want to add to our meeting before we turn off this recording?
All I can say to whoever watches this is if you are on the fence about doing this stuff, do it. But like I just said, commit yourself to it. We all know that humans are, just creatures, and we make mistakes. That's understandable, but learning from those mistakes is how you progress forward.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thank you for that, Corey. And yeah, anyone else that watches, take Corey's advice. Work with me, work with one of us coaches at Friction, and we hope to get you guys on the right path with your food.